So, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning to talk about how to slay your holiday stress as we're going into Thanksgiving next week and Christmas coming up. Not just the stress of the holidays, particularly themselves, but the stress of trying to finish everything up before the year ends, or get ready for next year. So, thank you so much for joining us. With us today, we have Joy Acaso. She's with Wellspring Living. Joy is an anxiety support coach. She has a 17-year background in psychotherapy, and she's also certified as a brain health coach, a neuro coach, complex trauma professional. She believes in evidence-based tools, and she's sharing some of that insight with us through her coaching and teaching of others. She is no stranger to stress and anxiety, but she realized later in life that misery is optional. What took her years to understand, she now shares with us through these topic discussions, and we're very grateful for her to be sharing that with us. Joy is passionate about helping people, deepening their capacity for love, joy, connection, and growth. And she believes in the endless possibilities of cultivating a meaningful life, no matter the season or circumstances. So, Joy, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you, Angie and Patty. Thank you all for having me back today. I think a few months ago, I had also talked about or shared about overcoming stress. Today, it's kind of like going to be a little bit more extended than that, because I wanted to really touch on some of the things that are obvious and not so obvious when it comes to holiday stress. And I found some research, numbers, and things like that that I wanted to share because I also wanted to normalize our stress, right? And we experience things differently. So there's going to be a framework. There's going to be like an overall overarching theme, but also we'll get to share some of the specific things that we want to address, as far as holiday stress. So I will go ahead and share my screen. And so this is my family from last year, two pajama parties that we attended. And even for me, like holidays has looked very different in the last 4 years. My mom passed away 4 years ago, and she loved the holidays. She had no qualms about spending, money for gifts and things like that. Oh, Alyssa has her.
Yes, it's
Yeah, can you enter full screen mode?
yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
Great.
okay. Let me see. Is that better?
Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Um, so yeah, so she loved the holidays. She would decorate, she would cook. I don't really cook for the masses. I love cooking, but it's just not, for 25, 30 people, it's not my thing. So I miss that so much about her. And she just, exuded that, over the holidays. So that was a period of adjustment for us. And then my sister-in-law and also my brother moved away. They're now in South Carolina and North Carolina. So Angie and I were talking earlier, like our family has also like kind of shrunk in numbers. So that's also in the last 4 years looked a little different. But I am grateful because we can define family the way that we is meaningful for us, and so we have friends here that we um, do these things with, friends that have become family over the years. And I see. Okay, so the good news is that not all stress are bad. We have there's because an appropriate level of stress can keep us motivated, keep us on our toes, remind us of our goals, what we need to do, things that we want to accomplish, the adrenaline that we get from all of those things, right? And another good news is that holiday stress is the acute kind of stress, meaning there is definite beginning and a definite end, so to speak. I know that can be blurred, but if you will, we kind of know like towards, at least for me, like towards the end of October and all the way to maybe the first week of January, that's just kind of a tight schedule. And then once the acute kind of stress passes, we're supposed to be able to, reset and recalibrate. But I will talk about that also in a little bit. Oh, I don't know if you could see, can you see? You can see all of this, right? So, why do people feel stressed during the holidays? These are just some of the things that I pulled out as I was looking through the internet and articles and journals. So, more demands within a short period of time, right? So, you've got, it's like crunch time because you have like what Angie said, like, end of year things, if you're closing out, books and things like that as business owners. You're having to meet with people so you can prepare for next year. Then there's so many events, so many things that are going on, but they're all like packed into these like October to, December, like it, like just a few months. Um, High expectations, and we can kind of identify that too, to see, because obviously different families, different dynamics have different expectations. The expectation of being jolly and cheerful all the time and like happy, because that is supposed to be, what is projected when it's the holiday season. But you're supposed to be grateful, right? Like we go around the table and we ask everyone what they're grateful for. And then when you can't answer, or when when your kids, right? Part of my experience when they're like, I don't know. So there's that awkwardness too, if you will, financial stress. Of course, especially, with economy and things like that nowadays. And it's not just like, for some of us too, it's not just packed here, but throughout the entire year, there could be like changes and things like that, and then having to deal with it now as well. Seasonal depression, I'll talk about that in more detail too, because that is a real thing in winter and fall. And that can also, bring up even more stress for us when we feel the symptoms of depression, meaning like we don't have motive, like lack of motivation, we don't want to do anything, but then people are again, going back to expectations. They expect something from us, or they quote unquote demand more responsibilities from us, but then you have this looming too much or too little togetherness. So depending on family dynamics or friends and relationships throughout the year, that can be a source of stress, right? We want to spend time together, but also there's isolation. There's an element of isolation and loneliness that can play a role. People are, for whatever reason, maybe their work, or things that are going on in their lives, they're not able to travel and see their family. So there's that dichotomy as well. And then I also found pressure to keep up with traditions. So with my family, traditions were so big. Like growing up in the Philippines, they would put up decorations like September, as soon as September 1st hit, all the decorations go up, and that's like, and the festivities start, like, parties, gatherings, community events and things like that. It's very active, and sometimes busy if if you didn't know how to navigate all of that. But it was like just very active from September all the way to like the first week of January. And so I had to adjust to that as well coming here, because obviously that's not, I don't put up my decorations. We haven't put up decorations. We do listen. We start listening to Christmas songs and things like that, pretty early on, like maybe after Halloween. Um, but we haven't done that. So that's also a period of adjustment for me, and trying to figure out what kinds of traditions I wanted for my family. So I wanted to ask you, if you are okay to share, what other things have you kind of seen that could be a source of stress, or the reasons why people would feel stressed out during the holidays that's not really here?
So Joy, for me, I would say I take it upon myself to make sure that people are not alone on these holidays. So
That's awesome.
that's one of the stressors for me. I feel like I don't want to do anything because I'm tired.
Okay.
But for me, it's like there's like 2 or 3 chamber members that I know a lot of changes have happened to them, and I'm here like, man, I want to do something so people can come over, and people that I know they're gonna be alone. So I don't like that personally. So that could be kind of sort of like I put it upon myself more than anything, and making sure everybody's okay. I'm an empath, so I feel for everybody.
Yes.
And then like my mom, she has so high expectations on holidays, and I'm the only child that's always there, so I feel for her.
Oh, but you
you know
have siblings,
I
and
have siblings, but they don't show up sometimes.
you see,
So,
right? Yes.
and I end up sitting there like, oh my god, I'm stressed for you type of. My stuff is more
Oh,
stress for people. And
yeah.
I would say making sure that everything's like up to expectations. Like your family's okay. Are they having fun? It's just in my nature to always be worrying about other people. I will be fine just staying in my bed and watching Netflix, and doing
Right.
nothing. So selfishly, I really want to go to that selfish, but I stress myself making sure everybody's okay.
Wow. And Patty, do you host and like invite people
So
to?
what I've done in the past is I literally just like if I'm going to my mom's, I literally invited the chamber member like, hey, don't eat don't eat dinner by yourself, or if you want to pass by, I'll bring you out some food so you can have it. So like my family's used to having random people come to dinner. So
That is
stuff
so
like that, just
good.
making sure my parents are okay, and chamber members, somebody eats something. I don't know. It's a difference when you eat it, and sometimes people don't want to do anything, they want to be alone, but
It's true.
I still feel like people shouldn't be alone, you know?
Wow. Yeah, thank you for that, Patty. No, it's real. Our church also does that, making sure that, friends and families don't have to be
So
alone over the
I always
holidays.
put out like a call out to see like, hey, people, if you have an extra chair, like invite somebody that, even if they don't come, Joy, invite somebody to make sure that they're not by
That's,
themselves, because
I agree.
Thanksgiving is the highest rate of suicide too, by the way. My husband was in homicide for many years, and he says that's one of the things, because you don't bring a plus one, or the
Mm,
whole hardship. So I'm very close to that based on a past incident of somebody that I knew. So I'm very close to like, hey, making sure everybody's okay. So I personally do not like the whole happy Thanksgiving, but I also know that some people appreciate the text of like, hey,
yeah.
hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. So those are my stressors, making sure that I'm okay, for the people that I know feel loved, and also feel like, hey, don't be alone.
Yes, yes. I love that. You actually touch on a point which I'll expand later about, just community and like gathering people, even if they're not quote unquote like close family and things like that. But yeah, that's such a good thing. Although hopefully the things that I'll show you today will kind of decrease your stress as you are
I know,
doing
Joy, I
that
can't
for
save the
other.
world, but yes.
Anyone else would like to share what you've seen people are stressed?
Hey Joy, it's Michelle. How are you?
Hi,
Hi, good to see you.
good to see you.
Um, I think for me, it's like trying to check all the boxes as far as like you want to do all the holiday things, right? So like I'll use Halloween for example. We completely ran out of time to carve pumpkins because my stepdaughter got a job and she was working. And so it was like we were scrambling on the day of Halloween because it was like we have to do this. It's a tradition.
Oh,
We
it's
do
a
this every year.
tradition. Yeah.
And like we should have probably just let it go, and we should have just enjoyed the rest of Halloween without it because it was okay, but things like that where it's like, okay, we got to put up the lights, we got to put up the tree, everyone, we have to bake cookies, we have to go to it's like you're trying so hard to make memories that you're kind of like missing the forest through the trees by trying to do everything. At least for me, that's me.
No, that's such a good point. And so you've done the like pumpkin carving like every year.
Yeah, yeah. Or things like, okay,
Just
we have to go look at Christmas lights, but if
I
you're
know.
busy and you don't get to it, like, is it really gonna ruin your holiday? No, it'll be okay. So
And
I
when
don't
you
know.
tell yourself like, is it gonna ruin my holiday? I'm gonna be okay. Do you believe like do you tell yourself?
No, that's the problem.
Oh,
I totally don't. I feel like I have to do everything because I just want to make it great for everybody else. And so it's like I take on too many things that, maybe I care about more than other people sometimes.
yeah. No, I can relate to like looking at Christmas lights and things like that. Like I want to do it, but the kids they get out so late. It's like the 23rd. And so, and then by the time like things are rolling really fast, so we don't even get to um look at those things. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So again, like hopefully, the things that we talk about today will help. And anyone else who wanted to share any
I can share.
stressors?
I think
Yes.
everything resonates. Everything that you had on the screen on your slide resonates, and I think it's the society puts a lot of pressure. Like
Absolutely.
already in September, you see Christmas decorations
Yes.
in the stores, and then like my kids, they go crazy. They already want to decorate, and it's like,
Oh,
okay, let's do Halloween first, and then let's do Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving, we can decorate, but they're anxious, like they're so anxious to already have, and they ask me every day, so of course that puts pressure, but I also want them to enjoy and take it step by
yes.
step. But yeah, I think, yeah, the pressure to keep up with traditions, but also pressure from society and
Society.
from
Absolutely.
everything that you see out there,
Yes.
it can be stressful, yeah.
Wow. At least your kids want to decorate.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I
they're
call it.
already they're 3 and 8, so yes.
That's good. And it's important to get the family involved, right? So you don't have to do
Yeah.
everything.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, anyone else who would like to share?
I think my input is going to be kind of twofold here. I think one is the stress of finishing everything before the end of the year. So you kind of look at the
Yeah.
calendar and you're like, okay, the very last day that we can really, let's say, schedule something for the chamber, schedule events, get projects done is maybe like mid-December, and then that's it. Your
Oh, and
productivity is going to
then
go down. Everyone else is starting to wind down, check out sort of mentally. So then there's that stress. And then the other half of that for me is something we touched on prior to us getting started today, was just the anticipation of getting together with family when you maybe
yes,
anticipate or expect there to be tension, maybe just from prior family disagreements, or that someone's going to start talking about politics or whatever the case is, and you're already
yes,
anticipating that as you walk into the room and walk into the situation. So you're already going in with a certain level of anxiety. And I think that even stops you from enjoying it, unless
that's
I mean,
so
I'm going to be
true.
trying to be very intentional this year and
Yeah.
like talk myself down from that, but I'm already thinking about it, right? And it's next week.
Yes.
So So yeah, those are the two things for me.
Yes, no, definitely. And that is very valid. And, we acknowledge our stressors. And the reality is we can't get rid of, all of our stressors in life, right? Nor that's not even the goal. Because if we try to put our energy into that, then like what Angie said, we won't be able to enjoy anything at all, not just the holidays, because our energy is just so like, how can I get rid of these things? But the main idea that I want to bring up today is really learning how to work with the energy, which means the sensations, the physical symptoms, and the thoughts that come up when we feel stressed, and also the impact, meaning like, relationships and ourselves and how we connect with all of that. So, how do we work with the energy and impact of stress? We're going to learn how these three things prioritize our mental health, be present and engaged so we can enjoy the things that are important to us, right? Like, so we're gonna talk about that some more, and then focusing on values. And Angie mentioned being intentional this year for what we want. So like I said earlier, not all stress are bad, and holiday stress is acute, meaning there's a beginning and there's an end. But I also know the impact sometimes lasts a little longer than that. But the real problem or concern is that stress actually stays in the body when these two things happen. Well, there's other factors too, but I wanted to focus on these two. When emotions don't get expressed or released in a healthy way, and when the mind gets stuck in a loop of negative thoughts. So, just kind of like what Michelle said earlier, like, okay, I'm thinking about these things for other people, and that's the first thing that we're going to look at, how the mind stays in a loop. The mind has ants, right? Like, so, but not this kind of ant. It's actually the automatic negative thoughts. By Dr. Daniel Amen was the one who coined the term, but there's actually a whole list of how we distort our thoughts, but I'm going to focus on three today. We call them automatic negative thoughts because science says that about 80% of our negative thoughts are actually automatic, and they just get recycled over and over. So there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to our thoughts. The first one is very familiar to all of us, the should statements, right? Like, I should be able to attend all the parties. I should be happy and jolly. I should be a great host. I should keep doing my traditions. However, these should statements, if you notice and if you reflect, like, that really does put a lot of pressure on us and the unrealistic expectations. So this is one way of how we distort our thoughts. Another way is all or nothing thinking. So this is similar to like black and white thinking, to where, everything should go well. And then if one thing doesn't go well, then it just ruins the whole thing, right? Like, if I don't make this dish, then the celebration is not complete. We started so late, so everything was just wrong. When we have negative thoughts, what happens is that the emotional brain gets on overdrive. So we really aren't, everything is just blurred, if you will, and hazy. So this is why we go into thinking that everything's just bad, even though maybe a few minutes earlier, you were laughing and having fun. But with that one thing, then you're sort of quote unquote triggered. And then the last one for today is catastrophizing, which the very definition of it is that with little to no evidence, we jump to conclusions. Little to no evidence, right? So I just know they didn't have fun. That's like reading people's nonverbal cues, when really it couldn't, maybe something else happened, right? It might not have been connected to the party or something like that, or the gathering. She looks mad. I must have done something wrong. So we catastrophize, but we also internalize the things that we see, around us. The tone of his voice didn't sound right. He doesn't want to be here. So we jump to those conclusions. So prioritizing our mental health over the holidays is monitoring your ants, your automatic negative thoughts. You pause and breathe and ask yourself, oh, am I shooting, right? Or am I catastrophizing? Is this a form of all or nothing thinking? So that you can at least start to externalize those thoughts and not let it become a part of your internal world. Keep your routine even in a more simplified way. So let's say you're used to going to the gym 4 days a week, maybe because of the holidays, because I wanted to factor in the reality that it is busy. So if you're used to doing something 4 times a week, maybe right now is 2 times a week, and actually be okay with that. So that's what it means by simplified. Another one is scale your stress level. So if because you don't want to ignore it, and this is not about numbing or just putting things aside, you want to say like, oh, I'm feeling stressed today. I think, like, on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you at? Because sometimes our brain will tell us that it's a high stress, but if we just stop and think, it's probably like a 4 or a 5 most days, right? But we are bringing awareness to our stress so that we can stop, interrupt the overwhelm. And then the one thing that is very important over the holidays is grieving unmet needs and expectations. This is actually the bulk of therapy and coaching. If I could sum it up, right, like the process of talking to someone is really connecting with the sadness, the pain, or the hurt of maybe a chapter closing, or just the different season in your life. That can also play a role in into the holidays. So one of the things that we also know about the holidays and why it can sometimes be very stressful is that it's so tied to our childhood. It can be nostalgic, and depending on our experience, a childhood experience, it can bring up so many emotions, right? It's also a time of the year when, and I know I've done this before, where we just think like, okay, the year is ending, so subconsciously we think like this is the time that everybody should get together, atone for their shortcomings, and just kind of like, okay, if the rest of the year was, kind of pretty bad, I want the holidays to be okay. So it's almost like we put our eggs in one basket. Not everyone, right? But I know personally, I've thought of the holidays like that. Like, okay, this is it. But this is not it. So that's a should. I can even pinpoint the distorted thinking there. This is a should thinking, all or nothing. And like what Alyssa said earlier, society really, there's just so much, the commercials, we're so bombarded by, the needs and expectations that people have with the holidays. And so it's so important. Grieving means just feeling your emotions and connecting with what is coming up for you. So those are important. 62% from Very Well Mind said that they have very or somewhat elevated stress. And only 10%, I believe, in that survey said that they were in a manageable kind of level. So what kind of pressure and demands do people feel during the holidays? Like I said, it's so tied to childhood traditions, and also the fact that, it can become like nostalgic and things like that, and just the high expectations, traditions, right? And the idea that, this is it, that this is it, this is the end of the year, absolutely I need to make amends, and things like that. Then there's also, I had mentioned earlier, seasonal depression, or what we call seasonal affective disorder, we actually don't really have like a scientific like source that we could say, okay, this is why it happens. We just have like a general view that because winter or fall, the change of weather, less sunlight, more people like feeling isolated and lonely. So this can also play a role in that. And if you or someone feels this way, make sure that you also reach out for help. With seasonal depression, it's similar to depression symptoms where you lose motivation. You don't want to do the things that used to bring pleasure to you. Your appetite and sleep, they change. But with this one, there is a period of time that we can kind of pinpoint. So usually winter and fall. Oh, I forgot to mention also. So historically, I wanted to touch on what Patty said. Historically, like the holidays are actually like a community event. So I read like some history, where like everyone would just celebrate together, right? But over the years, decades, like it just started to move indoors. So that is why like there's more isolation and feelings of loneliness that the holidays bring nowadays, because now we're gathering in smaller and smaller spaces. So that can also bring about certain changes. Okay, I have time. So you want noodles, but not this kind of noodles. We're going to do a simple exercise, but I know that I have a few minutes left, so I'm going to do a half version of it, but you will understand how to do it for yourself later on. So this is actually, it's called noodles, 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 and it's a progressive muscle relaxation technique that you can absolutely do if you start to feel stressed and overwhelmed, or maybe let's say you notice that you had a negative thought and then you couldn't stop the thought from like spiraling and things like that. This would be helpful. So this is like the tightening and the releasing of the muscles. Why we do that is because, I mean, you've seen stress balls, right? Like, and we can kind of use those things too. But why we do that is because we want to increase awareness in our body to make sure that we know what it feels to relax and what it feels to be tight. So when we think of things like, oh, but I wanted to see the lights, and like, why couldn't we, do the Halloween this way? The body actually tightens. But the problem is, if we don't notice, then we're just tight forever, right? Like, but we need to make sure that we are also practicing the release. So when you do this on your own, you can start from your head to your toes, or you can go from your toes, the way up. So what I would do is like, so the first thing is to think of your body as uncooked noodles. So you're like just tightening, your muscles. So you can, let's do the toes first, right? So if you can now, wherever you are, like you're sitting and comfortably, if this is not painful, by the way, again, it's not supposed to be painful, and then you can tighten it as much as you want to. So you tighten your make them stiff. You tighten or make your toes stiff for like a few seconds, and then you release, right? And then now you take your whole foot and your whole feet, make them stiff, and then you release. And now we move to the calves. So you can stretch, actually, you can stretch your legs. You tighten from your toes to your feet, and now your calves, and then you release. And then you just keep moving up, or like I said, you can start from your head down to your toes. So that's noodles, noodles, noodles. And then the next objective that we had was to be present and engaged. So that part, that the tightening, the loosening, and the relaxing is going to be helpful. Check in with yourself and notice your posture. Are you, tight anywhere? Is there tension? And then last year in December, Angie and Patty gave me an opportunity to do a 5-minute talk about the holidays and being mindful. So this one was one of them, probably one of my favorites, where it says decide beforehand how you want to celebrate. And I know it can be, it can be, like I said, it's busy and things like that. So, but if you decide how you're going to celebrate or not celebrate, that can also conserve your energy so that you can be present in places where you want to be. And then lastly is define what's meaningful and important for you, right? So we talked about traditions, expectations of society, and the demands that we have. It's okay to just kind of take that all in, and then you pause and breathe and you ask yourself, like, okay, which ones still make sense to me? Which ones would still be meaningful for me and my family? And then the last one is communicate your needs and ask others what they need from you. So we don't want to assume that people are on board, in those things. And I am looking for, give me 1 second. So you can scan this. I actually shared an assessment, a communication assessment. I also put it in the chat just now. You can download it and in your own time, just assess your communication style. I think that will be helpful. But now I can't. Okay. So this is how the assessment looks like. And it's so cool because it's very straightforward. It's asking, I'm afraid people won't like me if I ask them to change what they do. I'm afraid people won't like me if I say no. So very common things. And this is the second page, or I have it put on one page. So this is also going to help with our stress over the holidays, and it's going to ask you to score to see which of these skills, if you will, need more attention from you. Focus on values instead of the expectations and demands. And again, I know that's not easy, but trying to zoom out from the details and then asking yourself, what is the big picture here? Like, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish over the holidays and as we celebrate? And then set an intention. So an intention could be like, okay, I want to stay in peace. Like what Angie said, let's not talk about politics or religion. Like that could be an intention, right? Because you want the gathering to be a type of way, and that will help also conserve your energy. And the ham story is the last thing that I wanted to share, but I think, oh, that left. Okay. Let me see. This one is an audio. So I think this one is also important. Let me make sure. Choose you today. Can you hear that? Oh.
Can you share the sound?
Choose you today and every day.
A little bit higher, Joy.
Sorry. Hold on. Then it goes up. Yes? No,
It's just very low.
I don't even know what happened. 1 second. Patty, say that again. Why am I not?
I think she just said it was very low.
Thanksgiving. The mother seasoned it well, wanting to make sure it was perfect for her family. But right before the mother put the ham into the pan, she cuts 6 inches off of the end of the ham and tosses the chopped off pieces into the trash. Curious, the daughter asks the mother why she cuts the end of the ham. And she replies, "Oh, I don't know. That is how my mother always did it." The little girl's grandmother, the mother's mom, arrived later that day for dinner. Still curious, the little girl walks over to her grandmother, and asks her why she cut the end of the ham before baking it. Her grandmother replies, "Oh, sweetie, in my day, grandma only had one pan to cook it with it. And it was never big enough for the whole ham, so I would cut off the end to make the ham fit." So how interesting, right? So there was really no need to cut off that 6 inches from the ham. The grandmother, the mom's mom,
1
was only
second.
doing it so that she could.
Okay. So, yes, the ham story, one of my favorites, because the right traditions get passed down generations after generations, and not just traditions, like belief systems and things like that. So, and we don't, at least for me, I could speak for myself, like, we don't really question like what's going on. We just see other people doing it and then we do the same thing. But I want to encourage all of us this holiday season that, it's okay to kind of pause and reflect and ask ourselves, like, is this going to be meaningful for my family or for myself? Is this going to, be helpful for us? And if it is not, then allow ourselves to go and take a different direction. And that's all I have for today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or want to kind of share anything? Feel free to unmute yourself and do so. If not, I will end the recording here. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we can maybe get in another Chamber University session before the end of the year. And at the very beginning of the year next year, we can talk about how we're going to make next year amazing for everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you.